On this week's show of Elevate Your Wealth, we are going to be talking about some subject that I think is really going to be interesting for our listeners this week. So get ready for another episode of Elevate Your Wealth.
And now, Elevate Your Wealth with Mark Stimson and Casey Elkins.
Welcome into Elevate Your Wealth. Your hosts are Mark Stimson and Casey Elkins. You can find them at Elevated Financial Management right here in Seattle. 42 combined years of experience between these two in retirement planning. And folks, it's always about having the plan and being ready, helping hundreds of their clients do that very thing. They are certified financial fiduciaries. I'm Morgan Patrick, consumer advocate. Each and every week, it's always about retirement. We're going to get into some interesting topics today. But before we do that, gentlemen, welcome in. How was your week? How's Seattle treating you?
All I can say about that right now is we got some sunshine. We had a beautiful sunny weekend.
Wait, what? Sun?
Yeah, exactly. It's, as everybody knows, if they listen to the show, we're getting ready for baseball season. I know it's a big thing for Casey. I enjoy the Mariners too, but it was just nice to have some sunshine. And I think everybody in Seattle is ready for a few more months of that. So yeah, that was nice.
It's been nice lately. It's been really good. We've had some nice days and pretty early in the season for that, right? So lots of car shows going on. Everybody's getting ready to get out there. It's, the roads are packed. The traffic is nonstop as always, so that's disappointing. But at least we're sitting in the sun while we're sitting in traffic, so we'll take what we can get.
I tell you, as you go through your work week, and I mean, we get caught up in it. We really need to be thinking long term. We need to be thinking how we're going to handle retirement. Easiest thing is to get started as early as possible. There are a lot of you out there that are sitting on portfolios and you've done well in the saving department, but you don't have a plan. You're not working with a fiduciary. You're not creating that roadmap to get you to and through retirement. So that's why we're here. We're here to have a little fun, talk retirement. So let's get into this first subject. When your dream retirement, it is a job, and there are some people out there that just want to keep working or work just a little bit. But I know that you guys have these conversations when you're planning with your clients, and some of them want to keep on working.
Yeah, I think, Morgan, the idea of retiring at 65 and sitting on a beach or playing golf all day, those kinds of things, that's kind of a retired concept at this point, right? I don't think that is what most people think of when they think of retirement anymore. Maybe they do think of days of kicking back and relaxing, but, we live in a pretty busy society, especially here in Seattle. Folks are pretty busy and running around, and what a lot of people are doing is really taking retirement as an opportunity to pursue passion projects and those types of things. Or maybe it's even that they have enjoyed their work at the company that they've been with, and so they're kind of looking for a hybrid retirement. We talk about that a lot, right? So maybe they just work part-time, or they just do certain aspects of their job while they train somebody else to take over for them. And so, that dream retirement isn't what it used to be. And, Mark, I think you can speak to this too, right? It's interesting how people sometimes will come into the office and they are ready to quit their job. They're like, man, I got to be done, right? I can't do it anymore. I want out. I'd be out last week if I could. And we build them a plan and we show them that it's doable and we show them how to do it. And suddenly they have the confidence to retire. And then their attitude changes, right? Now it's like, well, I guess I could work a little longer, right? Yep. And simply it's just has to do with the fact that they don't have to anymore, right? Now that it's a choice, it's no longer this huge burden. And I think that's kind of a really interesting thought when it comes to retirement and just how we see, this idea of a hybrid retirement affects a lot of people we work with.
Yeah, in fact, we just helped somebody last week that was talking about this exact thing, because I think there's a lot in our community in this area that are delaying retirement because they kind of see this as an opportunity to adapt their lifestyle around their work. It gives them a lot more flexibility. Options open up because they can do different things because they know that they have and are more confident because of the income that they're going to have, still with a paycheck coming in every week and not having to rely necessarily on just Social Security, and if they're fortunate enough, a pension. So again, like Casey mentioned, so many are creating a wonderful lifestyle around work or around volunteering. In the old days with our parents and grandparents, that was not it. It was like, cut the cord, I'm out. Yeah. I want my parachute now, right? And so many today are just not feeling that way. And it's actually pretty cool what some of our clients are actually doing in that regard. I'm excited to help them figure that out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, we're seeing a shift. I mean, we have baby boomers retiring at 10,000 a day. So, I mean, they're getting there, but they have their idea of what retirement is. And then we start thinking about millennials, the Gen Zs. You guys deal with this on a daily basis, and they are looking at retirement, as you guys have been talking about, in a completely different light. So you have to plan that way, because planning is changing along with retirement.
Yeah, it's true. And, as a matter of fact, even a lot of baby boomers are seeing retirement very differently. There's a lot of baby boomers that work remote now since COVID, and they have stayed remote. And so it's allowed them to move, right? Maybe they've moved somewhere more scenic or moved somewhere closer to family that maybe they would have been hesitant to do before. Or maybe they just live an altogether kind of different lifestyle, right? I think many folks are kind of used to punching the clock and coming home and calling it a day. But if you can work from home, you're not dealing with that commute anymore. And so you have more opportunity to do other things after work, because hopefully you're not as tired, and there's other passions and things that you want to pursue. So, I mean, people are now, baby boomers, millennials, as they look forward to that, Gen Xers, as they look forward to that, are looking at different retirements, and the planning has to adjust because of that. If your income is going to continue on into retirement, that does change how much you need to save, and it does change how you might invest, and all those kinds of things, right? They all play off one another.
Yeah, in fact, I'm working with a client right now that's a referral from a dear friend of mine, his sister, and she was let go by Boeing recently, but it's because her group got phased out, and now she's trying to get on with a group out of Oklahoma, but she'll work, of course, here remotely. But that's an interesting thing that's happening now. Companies, because a lot of these employees have so much knowledge and work experience that it's hard to just say, oh, yeah, we're going to cut them all off and replace them, right, with somebody younger. Well, that may or may not be good, but a lot of these companies, I think, are taking another look at whether a phased retirement might work good for some of these individuals that want to stay in the workforce, but maybe not want to work 40 hours a week. Maybe they could work 20 or 15. So these things are really having an opportunity present itself that wasn't there a few years ago, and it's really making for an interesting time for people that were thinking about, well, I got to get out, but maybe not totally ready for that, and it creates a hybrid, like Casey said, that's actually pretty wonderful in a lot of for a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, it's important to have these types of conversations and how your retirement planning is going to fit into what is kind of the new. I mean, this is what we're experiencing across the workforce. Things have changed quite a bit, but it could be a very nice positive for those of you out there looking for work and not having to move, not having to change locations. Now, an opportunity to sit down, again, with Elevated Financial Management and talk with Mark, talk with Casey, map out what you're doing. And if you're sitting on that portfolio and you haven't thought about planning, this is an excellent opportunity for you. But what we have is we have spots on their calendar. They are cost-free. You leave the checkbook at home. If you've saved $250,000 towards your retirement, these strategies are going to work best for you. All you got to do is call 866-668-3625. That's 866-668-3625. So back to the remote part of this, with everything that's changing and people working a little bit longer, and maybe something happens. Maybe you do lose your current job, but you have that skill level. In this digital age, there are companies everywhere that might want to take a look at your skill set and hire you, and you work remotely, and you can keep that going as you kind of transition into your retirement.
That's true. As a matter of fact, I think the other side of that too is that you may not even have to work for a company, right? Now there's Fiverr and there's Upwork and all these different things, right? Where if you have a skill set, you can put yourself on these marketplaces, I guess we could call them, right? And when somebody needs a project done, you can slam out that project for them, charge a flat rate or an hourly fee or whatever that is. And there's a lot of flexibility in that didn't exist just a few years ago.
Angie's List.
Yeah, right. So, whatever it is, right, you can put yourself out there in that way if you have a skill set that is marketable in that fashion. And so, retirement is looking different now. And I think if we fast forward just 10 years from now, I think it's going to look drastically different.
Yeah.
And then 10, 15 years beyond that, it'll look very different, right? But, I think that no matter what retirement looks like, what you want to do in retirement, whether or not you're going to work or be completely retired and done with work, there's still something that I think is really interesting. And the idea that it's all about your lifestyle, right? Yeah. At the end of the day, we talk about this a lot. It is 100% about your lifestyle. And we'll talk about that more, I think, when we come back. We'll have a little bit more time. But at the end of the day, retirement is 100% focused on maintaining a particular lifestyle that allows you to do what you want to do.
Well, let's get some people into the office. We've got opportunity for you just to talk about your situation. There's no pressure here. There's no cost here. You leave the checkbook at home. So, Casey, walk us through what's going to happen.
Well, for those that are willing to pick up the phone and give us a call, this is a written financial plan put together by our team of certified financial planners. And what we're going to do is we're going to talk about your retirement, the lifestyle that you want to have in retirement, how your investments are currently set to accomplish that. We'll give you a complete review as to where things currently stand, and we'll start to make recommendations on how you can maximize your Social Security, what you can do to protect yourself from long-term care, what you can potentially do to lessen your taxes. We'll talk through all those things in a custom-tailored way specific to you, so don't hesitate. Pick up the phone. Give us a call.
All right, here's your phone number, 866-668-3625. That's 866-668-3625. This is your opportunity, folks. A written financial plan. If you've saved $250,000 or more towards your retirement, these strategies are going to work best for you. Call the number, grab one of these appointments. Again, gain some confidence if you're walking this alone. And if you're in the middle of something, need a second opinion, get one of the appointments. 866-668-3625. That's 866-668-3625. When we return, we'll talk more about retirement lifestyle. It's all coming up next on Elevate Your Wealth. Welcome back in. It's Elevate Your Wealth. Your host, Mark Stimson and Casey Elkins, Elevated Financial Management right here in Seattle. Check them out online. It's a great resource website, efmnw.com. All letters, efmnw.com. And their TV show, Elevate Your Wealth, links to that, links to our radio show in podcast form. They're there for you. Again, it's about retirement planning each and every week, the importance of having a customized plan to get you to and through retirement. We have been talking, of course, about how things are changing in retirement, and people are choosing, different avenues in their retirement, and some of it might include continuing to work. Some of you might just say, "I'm done," and you're off, and you're experiencing your retirement. But we're getting into just the different aspects of this, and we're talking about lifestyle. Now, Rita Asaf is with Fidelity, and it's interesting. I'm looking at this, Casey and Mark, and the latest thing that they're saying is you take a look at what is covering your retirement: Social Security, other guaranteed income sources like annuities. I mean, they're really starting to put more things into your retirement, but you really have to plan for it.
You do, yeah. And actually, you know what? This is really interesting, right? So Asaf was essentially indicating that ideally your essential expenses are covered by Social Security or other guaranteed income sources like annuities.
The A word.
Careful now.
That's it.
It is interesting, right? Because that is kind of a bad word, right? And we talk about that a lot. But it's interesting to hear that come from Asaf, right? Or from anybody that is closely associated with Wall Street, right? Because that is not something that they're typically known for. And so this is something that we preach here, right? We talk about this a lot. And if anybody who's listening to the show that is a client or has come in and met with us, you well know that we are huge fans, maybe ultimate fanboys, I guess you could call us, right, of guaranteed income in retirement, right? Whether that be Social Security or annuities, but
pensions.
Pensions. That really is what guarantees your lifestyle. Yeah. That's what locks in your lifestyle in retirement. And that's what this is all about. Right? That is the key, is to have a lifestyle in retirement that you can maintain. And if you can get guaranteed income sources to support that, you lock in your lifestyle, and it no longer matters whether the market is riding up or down, because your income is not dependent on that.
Yeah.
And that's really key. That's financial freedom, right?
Well,
that is.
I wanted to jump in and just say let's explain the guaranteed part of this, because that's a nice word. If you are headed towards retirement, you're stressed out, you're worried about the market. A word that will help you sleep better at night is guaranteed.
Yeah.
So things that are guaranteed, guys, let's go over some of those. Obviously, annuities in there. Social Security, it's an annuity. A pension's an annuity. We often have the conversation about annuity, and we kind of have that label on the discussion. Look, you really need to do your own investigation. You need to work with a fiduciary, and you need to see if this type of product is going to be good for your portfolio. But the word guaranteed, that just feels good.
Yeah, in fact, it's funny you mentioned that, Morgan, because ask anybody that was at SVB Bank this past year, second probably biggest bank failure right behind Washington Mutual that went down in 2008. So guarantees matter, just like the FDIC. Now, again, like we've been talking about, annuities matter. The problem why I think they get a bad rap is there's basically 4 different types. And there is a type that Casey and I can't stand. And it is, I hate to say it, it's not a good word, and I'm not going to say it on the air, but it's not worth getting. And that's a variable annuity. And that's the one that is talked about a lot of times by Wall Street. So again, but the hybrid, the fixed indexed annuities, that's a whole different realm. They are wonderful if they're used in the right way. Does everybody have one? No. Does everybody need one? A lot do, because we want to make sure that their guaranteed income is there. Like you mentioned it, guarantees matter. And I know, Case, I think you feel the exact same way.
I do. Yeah, I really do. You know, that guaranteed income, and as you said, Morgan, really, what is that, right? It's knowing that you need $6,000 a month to live your life in retirement, and between Social Security, maybe a pension if you've got one, possibly an annuity if that fits in your circumstance, you have $6,500 a month coming in, which means that the $6,000 that you need to spend, you can go spend without thinking about it, and you can go live your life. You can do whatever it is that you want to do, which maybe it is sitting on a beach sipping margaritas. Maybe it is playing golf every day. Whatever that is, the point is that the money supports your lifestyle, and all too often we see people get caught up in this rat race to gain 15% a year in their portfolio, and it just doesn't happen, right?
No,
and
exactly.
their lifestyle becomes dependent on that, and that's a big problem, because if the market is down, if you didn't have the growth that you needed, your lifestyle's out the window. And not a single person has ever come into our office and once told us that I'd like to have a flexible lifestyle in retirement and like to have less income in some months and more income in others. Nobody's ever said that, right?
Not one time.
And I don't think it's ever going to happen. The reality is what you need for retirement success is guaranteed income that allows you to go do what you want to do and is not dependent on anything else. And that is what financial freedom is, right?
In fact, it's funny you mention that, because I just had a client come in and sign paperwork this morning, and they're turning on a couple of annuities that they have. They've had them for a while, but they're adding $65,000 a year of guaranteed income. They've got a trip where they're taking all of their grandkids and their children, and they're all getting the matching shirt thing. We all might think it's dumb, but you know what? I think it's awesome.
It's cheesy, but it's cool. You're being cheesy with your family. That's okay.
They are creating memories now instead of worrying about a big lump of sum of money going to them when they're gone. I think it's wonderful, but this is giving them, like Casey just mentioned, the freedom to go and live their life, to do exactly what they want to do. And I think that's what's so cool about it, because it does. It locks in that way of life, and they don't have to worry about, oh my God, my PE ratio is going down and the market's getting crushed right now, so now I'm going from $6,000 a month to $3,000 a month. Most people are going to have a real issue if that happens, but that's what a lot of people are doing, and we want our clients to really find a better way.
Elevate Your Wealth. Your hosts are Mark Stimson and Casey Elkins. Again, you can find them right here in Seattle. Elevated Financial Management. We go back and forth on the retirement topics each and every week, but it's about helping. There are a lot of you out there that you're sitting on portfolios and you've done an amazing job saving your entire working life. But hey, look over there on the horizon. That's your retirement, and having a plan and being ready for it. Covering any gaps. Right now, we're talking about guaranteed income in retirement. That just sounds good. There are a lot of you out there that are totally stressed out. Am I going to have enough money? I mean, the economy is doing what it's doing. The market is up and down, and right now we're up. But, there's eventually going to be a dip. How is your portfolio? How's it set up? How's your risk number? I know, guys, you have this conversation with your clients quite a bit, and you take a look at that portfolio and you make sure that their allocations are correct for where they are on their time horizon.
Yeah, that time horizon is a big deal, right? Because, when you're 15, 20 years from retirement, there's something called sequence of returns. That's not just when you're 15 years from retirement. That exists all the time. But the problem is that sequence of returns really becomes a big deal when you're moving into retirement. So what that is if you have positive years and then negative years and positive years and negative years, while you're contributing to your accounts, the sequence in which those happen doesn't really matter because the end result is the same, right? Because you're contributing and the sequence of those returns does not affect how much you have. But once you start to take withdrawals out of your accounts, that is when this becomes a big issue. If you have negative years in your accounts when you start withdrawing early in retirement, your chances of getting back that money that you lost to the market and that you then had to withdraw are very slim, right? Yeah. Because you've lost money and then you had to take a $40,000 distribution because you needed the money to go live your life, and now your account's way down, and as the market's recovering, the next year you had to take another $40,000 out when the market was down, and it's a recipe for disaster, and it's a recipe to be stressed out and anxious, and that's not what we want for our clients, and that's not what any of them want, right? And that's why we talk about this guaranteed income, is because that's what gives you financial freedom. That's what allows you to wake up in the morning and do what you want to do without having to be worried about whether or not you have the money to do it, or if your money's going to last in retirement. When you create a guaranteed income source that's going to last as long as you do, no matter how long you last, that gives you confidence to do what you want.
Opportunity to have this conversation with Elevated Financial Management, Mark, Casey, their entire team. It's right now, and we have these appointments. They are complimentary. Mark, walk us through what's going to happen if they can grab one right now.
If you're listening, pick up the phone. Please give us a call. All we want to do is have a conversation. If you've saved at least $250,000 or more, come and see us. Our team of CFPs is going to look at all of your stuff. Please, we want to talk about taxes. That doesn't get talked about by a lot of the big box stores. We're going to talk about guaranteed sources of income. Are they guaranteed for your lifetime? What about distribution of your assets when you're gone? What about probate? We could do a whole segment just on legacy planning, which we're very big on here. What about your health situation? What are you going to do when you turn 65? So please, give us a call. Let us help you, give you some ideas, because as Casey mentioned, there are so many things that can go wrong in retirement. You make one bad step, it can be disastrous. So again, please give us a call. Let us help you and put together a true written plan for you, because I think if you do, it's going to give you the confidence that every one of us wants.
Confidence. Love that word. Again, the number to call is 866-668-3625. If you've saved $250,000 or more towards your retirement, these strategies are going to work best for you. Call the number now. Secure an appointment. 866-668-3625. No cost. Leave the checkbook at home. Claim it now. 866-668-3625. When we return, do you think you're ready to retire? What you don't know, well, it should worry you. We'll talk about it when we come back on Elevate Your Wealth. Elevate Your Wealth, hosted by Mark Stimson and Casey Elkins, Elevated Financial Management, where you can find them right here in Seattle. Check them out online. Great resource website, efmnw.com. All letters, efmnw.com. Links to the TV show, our radio show, and podcast form. Great information there. Again, anything that's going on with Elevated Financial Management, you can find it on the website, efmnw.com. I'm Morgan Patrick, consumer advocate. Again, Mark and Casey have got 42 years combined experience. They're fiduciaries. It's about helping you get ready for your retirement. That's what they do with hundreds of their clients. So I led into this with, do you think you're ready to retire. And what you don't know, well, it should worry you. Guys, I think this is very interesting because we have statistics from, the people that are retiring, and they feel like, 75% of us, we're ready to go. But then the people that are helping them retire, that would be you, they have different numbers in mind. So there's a disparity there, and it's a disparity we should shed light on because people think they're ready, and a lot of you are not.
Yeah, and this is something, there's so much reality to that point, Morgan. This study was amazing. And like you said, so we got 75% or so of those, they think they're ready to go. But then when you talk to the advisors, 60% of the advisors who are pretty good in this world are saying, no, you're not. You're not close. And I love how one of them, he makes this point when he's talking about his clients that feel that they're ready. And he just is making the statement, I've seen this movie before. He's trying to let people know that you're not probably as ready as you think you are. And that's what we want to shed some light on today. There are some things that you can do to better your chances of being successful. And one of them, like we've talked about, is talking about income and making sure that that is guaranteed. Are you making the right choice when it comes to when you're going to start Social Security? That's a huge one.
Right.
We haven't even touched on today. So, which can add maybe up to a couple $100,000 of income if you wait versus turning it on at 62. So these are just some of the things that we share with our clients when they're willing to come in, because a lot of people are not near as ready as they think they are.
Right. It's interesting. This thought, it was said here that it's like the idea that everyone thinks they're an above average driver.
Right.
But statistically, that's not possible. And
That's
so
perfect.
I think that's perfect coming
it
from
is.
our host that I know puts on driving gloves before he goes home, right?
Yeah.
I would never be caught in driving gloves.
He should, though.
Yeah. But I think that's a really good point, right?
Yeah.
It is, and the reality is it's a cliche, but we don't know what we don't know.
Yeah.
And I do think that many people, when it comes to retirement, don't know enough to be worried about it, right? That's the thing. They don't understand all the pitfalls and all the risks and the things that come up in retirement that are drastically different than when you're 40, right? That's the big thing. So, it's really hard to say what all those things are that you don't know, and that's where having the conversation with the right person is so important.
We talk about this each and every week, and it's about having the information. It's about having the knowledge. There's so many of us out there that we've been saving well, and we're sitting on portfolios, but we haven't started planning. And I want to throw this at Mark because he is our Social Security guy. The same thing goes when you think about it. People that sit on portfolios and they're not in the planning mode and they never really get there, and they're kind of do-it-yourselfers, or they end up being do-it-yourselfers. The same thing goes for Social Security. When you think about it, I think the majority of people out there have this misnomer about Social Security. That is going to be their end-all, be-all when it comes to retirement, when that is just not the case. It's not going to cover everything that you need in retirement. And there's so many people out there that feel like that's where they're going to lean the heaviest.
And the funny part about that, Morgan, is that if a client comes in and all they have is Social Security, we tell them it's going to be a tough road here. This is an expensive place in the country to live, and Social Security just flat isn't going to be enough. I don't care if you're maxing it out, at 3,700 or whatever it is this year, the new numbers. So again, we want to really think about that. And, I got a great article that is entitled, "Don't Let Social Security Dupe Your Clients into, believing that if you start at 62, you're going to be good." Right? It's not the case. You're going to give up probably a couple of $100,000 because you believed that Social Security was not going to be there. Now there is some big changes coming, and I think the one that needs to be highlighted is the simple fact that in about a decade, when that trust fund does run out, we're going to see a reduction of anywhere from 20 to 25%. So the question is, do you have a plan to replace that? Because that's going to matter. Can you imagine if you were at, living at 2,000 and now you have to live on 1,500? That's going to hurt 10 years from now. Because you think, has inflation gone down? I don't think so. See, so again, don't believe all the rhetoric and all the things that you think you know. You need to really talk with somebody that's good in that world. And, it can make all the difference in you having a successful retirement versus one where you may end up having to go back to work.
So it's important to, cover your bases when it comes to planning and map out, how you're going to get into retirement, the accounts you're going to draw down on. Social Security needs to be part of your planning process. Medicare, guys, let's start there too. A lot of people are looking at, I'm in my early 60s. I'm thinking about possibly early retirement, but hold the phone. Have you made a plan? Have you thought about how you're going to transition or gap between early retirement and Medicare, which is at 65? I mean, this is something a lot of people are thinking. They're so excited about early retirement, but if you're paying your own health care for a couple of years, it can get really expensive.
Big time. Yeah. That is that's probably honestly one of the biggest hurdles that people face when it comes to early retirement is figuring out what medical is going to cost them. And a lot of people end up working just because of that.
I'm doing that right now, as you know, with Lori, my wife.
Yeah.
I got to carry her for 3 more years.
Right. And so, there's a big cost associated with that, right? And that does delay people's retirement. Even if they have saved enough, it's hard to think, well, for a couple, if let's say both couples are 62 and they're not going to be able to go on Medicare till 65, they got 3 years, maybe 4 years to cover at maybe $1,000 a month per person.
Yeah.
Right. Kind of using round numbers there. So, that's a big cost. It's hard to stomach that. And that weighs on your retirement plan. It does.
Well, and again, we've had this conversation many times. Fidelity, other entities have put out the surveys. The average couple is going to spend over $300,000. Right. That if they reach 65 in their retirement, they're going to spend as a couple over $300,000. And that's just on their health care, and that doesn't even include long-term care. And if you've taken a gander, if you've taken a look at what long-term care can cost, and folks, as healthy as we think we are, we're all going to eventually, we're going to break down. And you may need long-term care. And Mark, I know you're on this, man. This is expensive stuff.
Yeah, Mark's breaking down right now. He's hacking up a lung over here in the corner. We had to mute him.
This is the reality that I want everybody to realize. If a long-term care need arises and you don't have a plan for that, it's going to blow your plan to smithereens. There's nothing we can do about it. In our area, we're looking at right now probably close to $13,000 a month for one person for 1 month of care. So how are you going to deal with that? Oh, don't worry about it, right? It's not going to happen to me. That's what people tend to think. And I think anybody listening to this show has heard me say over and over again, this is why I'm in this business. It happened to my grandparents. I watched them lose everything. And so I'm very passionate about talking about. Now, everybody looks at it differently, and we respect that. But there's only 3 ways to skin that cat, you might say. You're either going to self-insure, take care of the burden if it happens. You're going to have to get some sort of a hybrid plan, either life or standalone long-term care plan, or you'll go on Medicaid once all your money's gone. That's it. Those are the only options. So we don't want to just think it can't happen to me, because the numbers that it is happening to is staggering right now.
Yeah, and this is big too. We have a client that the husband's aunt, I believe it was in long-term care in either North or South Dakota. I don't remember, one of the Dakotas. Anyways, the thought that a lot of people have is, I'm going to leave the state if I need that, or I'll be living in a lower income area, so care won't be so expensive. But in the Dakotas, it was over $14,000 a month, which is more than it is here.
Wow.
And so, we're in a high income area. I don't know that I've ever seen the Dakotas hit the high income list, right? When you see those articles about the high income states and that kind of thing. We're in a high income area. Life is expensive where we're at. But to think that we're just going to leave the state when that happens or before that happens and we'll time it just perfectly, that's the same as saying I can time the market perfectly, and that just isn't going to happen, right? Yeah. So you've got to have a plan, because those type of events happen when you don't expect them, right? And that's what the plan is for, so that you're taken care of when life hits you.
And we talk about confidence, ease of mind, that peace of mind, knowing that you're working with fiduciaries, that you're mapping this out, that you're taking into consideration all the different things that can impact you as you're moving to and through retirement. If you're doing it yourself, are you bringing into the picture everything that you need to really make your own plan? I mean, why not work with a fiduciary? Why not at least have that sit down, totally complimentary, just to see if you're on the right path? And if you're not on the right path, I mean, you'll be able to be told, look, you need to pivot here. Or as fiduciaries, Mark and Casey are going to say, you know what? You've done a fantastic job.
Yep.
Congratulations. Don't change a thing. Now's the opportunity to get all those questions answered. So, Casey, we've got spots on the calendar. Walk us through what's going to happen for these callers.
Well, this is exactly what we know people need to retire with confidence and to be successful in retirement, which is a written financial plan. So that is put together by our team of certified financial planners. Mark and I are involved with that. It takes a group of folks to make sure that someone is going to be confident and be successful in their retirement. And that's what we provide. So if you're thinking, man, you know what, there is a lot I don't know about retirement. There are a lot of concerns that maybe I haven't really thought of because this isn't what I do from day to day, right? I'm focused on my job. Maybe I need to let somebody else focus on this for me. That's what this is for. This is for those folks that want a written plan, that want to talk about the risks of retirement, that want to put together a plan that's going to help mitigate those risks, lessen taxes, make sure that your income is guaranteed. We're going to walk through all of that with you individually to make sure you're set up for success. Don't hesitate. Pick up the phone. Give us a call.
Again, if you call in, claim an appointment, $250,000 saved for retirement. These strategies are going to work best for you. Here's the phone number, 866-668-3625. That's 866-668-3625. We're talking about confidence in your retirement. Look, having a portfolio is not a plan. This is an opportunity to walk out with a written financial plan, complimentary. Leave the checkbook at home. 866-668-3625. One more time, 866-668-3625. When we return on Elevate Your Wealth, financial hurdles you're going to face in the first 5 years of retirement. You don't want to miss this. Welcome back in. Elevate Your Wealth, the show you're tuned to. Mark Stimson and Casey Elkins are your hosts. You can find them right here in Seattle. Elevated Financial Management, 42 years combined experience between these two in the retirement planning business, helping hundreds of their clients get ready for their retirement. They're certified financial fiduciaries. I'm Morgan Patrick, consumer advocate. We go back and forth on so many different retirement topics, but the one thing that you can learn from this show, it's so important to have a plan, have that roadmap to get you to and through retirement, and you want that guaranteed income that you can sleep at night. Despite everything that's going on in the world, your retirement is there. It's there for you. So we're going to talk about this portion, guys, just financial hurdles you're going to face in the first 5 years. And there are 6 of them. We're going to get to all 6. So this first one, and we've experienced this in different fluctuations in the last couple of years, but inflation. I mean, this is something that anywhere you go, everywhere you go, you're going to see it in the prices. And guess what, folks? Just because inflation goes down doesn't mean the prices are going to go down. So inflation's a big one.
Yeah, and that's something that some people might believe, right? That I can't believe, Casey and I talk about this. We could, a couple of years ago, I could do a pretty good lunch for $10.
Sure.
Maybe a little less. Right now, it seems like if we go out, it's $20.
Those were the glory days.
Yeah. And it's hurting. There isn't anybody that can say they're not being affected by this, because if they do, I don't know what world or planet they're living on, right? Because if you go to the gas pump, you buy eggs, you buy just the basic necessity, milk, cereal, the staples. It's gone up dramatically, and we tend to tell our clients, I don't believe what the government tells us either. The figures are usually quite a bit higher. Proves that, right? If you really do the numbers. So you got to have a plan for inflation. Now, in our plans, we've been using 2.5% as an inflation default rate for a long time. Now, the last couple of years, that hasn't been enough. But if inflation stays double digit,
Yeah.
I'll guarantee you this: none of us are going to have enough money.
no way.
Because it's staggering what only 2.5% is in a 10-year period of time, which, so do you have a plan for that? That's the point. Do you have a way, like we talked about Social Security, if that gets reduced by 25% when inflation is still going up and we get less money coming in, but things cost more, what are you going to do? Do you have a plan for that? So again, inflation is a must that you have to address and then put a plan in place to deal with it because it's not going away.
Yeah, I think that's so important because it just feels like a lot of people miss this, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people will think, well, I've got my Social Security and, I got my investment accounts and that kind of thing. That's great. But if your income is not designed to increase in your retirement, you do not have an inflation plan. Just knowing about it and understanding the impact and hoping that your accounts grow and all that is not an inflation plan. Your income has to be designed to increase. One way or the other, that's the only way to deal with it.
Yeah, things get more expensive. Inflation is going to be around. You need to pad your accounts and make sure that you are going to be covered as you move through your retirement. So again, we're just hitting a few things that you need to know that are going to impact you in the first 5 years of your retirement. So inflation is going to be there. You're going to have to adjust. You want to make that adjustment as you are getting into retirement. Sequence of return risk, guys. This is something we almost hit every single show.
Yeah, we do, right? We jump into everything, and it's important that we talk about all these different topics, right? And that next one is sequence of return, right? This is a big deal because we talked about it a little bit earlier, but ultimately what it boils down to is if you have to take money out of your accounts when the market is down, you're not going to have a successful retirement. So maybe you can think of it like this. Many people have been told, don't sell it. It's just a paper loss when the market's down, right? If you don't sell it, you're not locking in the loss, and that's great. Well, okay, I can understand the thought there. I don't know that I necessarily support that belief. It's kind of like burying your head in the sand. But that same vein, if we think of it in this way, if we are now in retirement and all of our money are in accounts that rise and fall with the market, at least to some extent, at some point you will have to sell when the market is down to produce the income that you need, at which point you are locking in the loss and your ability to recover is very small. Now, we talk about that more in the office because it's a lot easier to illustrate when we have visuals and things, but that sequence of return is a big deal and something that you've got to make sure that whoever you're working with is helping you create a plan that's going to account for that so that you can have a successful retirement. And that kind of rolls us into our next one, Mark, which is, this is a big cost, right? Healthcare, that's going to hit everybody, and it's something that really does affect people.
And we've talked about this earlier. This is why some are deciding to work a little bit longer. They can stay on the company's insurance, right? That's a big deal. But what if you can't? What are you going to do if you're not going on Medicare yet? And I've been on Medicare now for a couple of years, but I had to worry about this, and I still have to worry about that to this day with my wife, Lori. She's not 65 yet. She won't be 65 for about 2.5 years. So again, do you have a plan? What are you going to do? Have you looked at the cost? Because it is amazing when I bring this up, and Morgan, you talked about $300,000 or maybe a little more in a retirement life cycle. But if you haven't thought about how expensive this is on your own, and you're not on Medicare yet, Casey mentioned $1,000. Well, it could be even a little bit higher than that for a couple of years. So if you double that, you could be looking at $35,000 a year just for medical costs. How do you deal with that if you don't have a plan? So again, health care, and that doesn't, and we've touched just a little bit on long-term care. That's a whole nother piece of this puzzle. But again, if you're working, are you putting into your HSAs? I believe probably one of the greatest investment tax breaks that we can have. So be contributing to your HSAs, your FSAs, things like that can really help when it comes to this type of planning.
Tell you, so important, again, to make sure you're, hitting all the bases, to use a baseball term, because Casey's such a big baseball fan. You need to make sure you're fielding everything that's out there. Your position players are all in place so you can handle this. There are so many things that go into your retirement game plan. Make sure you're covered. And you may think you are, and you might not be. Why not take advantage of an opportunity to sit down with Elevated Financial Management, cost-free, right? You can claim an appointment right now. You can talk about your situation, see if you've got your bases covered. 866-668-3625. That's 866-668-3625. We are hitting, again, some very important stuff on the show, as we always do. But when you think about financial hurdles you're going to face in the first 5 years, so you're just getting started, you're in your go-go, man, you want to enjoy retirement, but don't forget about these things. We just talked about healthcare, sequence of returns risk, inflation, all there. The next one, housing. I mean, this is something that a lot of people don't even think about, but it's going to be one you're going to have to face.
Yeah, this is often the largest cost in retirement for people. It's often your largest cost just in life, right? When you think about ongoing bills and your biggest purchase, and that's typically housing of some kind. Even if you're a renter, maybe you don't own the home. Even if you are renting, that's still probably your biggest monthly expense. And so, most people try and get this resolved before they retire. A lot of people do purchase homes and that, right? Purchase a condo, whatever it is, but really trying to resolve that expense before you retire. And that's important. Now, maybe you can support it in retirement, but if that is what you're going to have to do, it better be part of the plan, right? That income that you need to support that spending better be part of your income plan, better be part of your investment plan to make sure that that cost is covered and that it's built in. Because if you're going to have that in retirement, you've got to make sure that's there. And then the next thing that we really want to focus on is taxes, right? Nobody wants to pay more tax than they have to, but this is really important when it comes to retirement.
Yeah. Now, wait a minute. Now, taxes are going down, right? They're going to be lower when we get into retirement, right?
Yeah, I wish.
Out there in La La Land where you are, yeah.
And this is, we really pride ourselves here at Elevated Financial Management because we deal with taxes and we do a lot of Roth conversion. We want to help people become tax efficient, and very few firms out there want to deal or help their clients with taxes. We believe it has to be an integral part of any plan that's put together because taxes, and we mentioned inflation, are going to be the two biggest eroders of our money, period. So again, do you have a plan for that? And different investments are taxed totally different. We won't do that on the show today, but we'll get into that in one of our upcoming shows and help people to understand the different ways different investments are taxed and how they're taxed, why they're taxed, and when they're going to be taxed. You need to have a plan for that. So it's so critical that you learn and you plan for really maximizing your tax, lowering it if at all possible. Maximize your deductions, things that some people think about, but they don't really have a plan for. We need a written plan to help us deal with taxes. It'll make a huge difference in how much money you keep, because as Casey and I mention all the time, it's not how much you make, it's how much you keep. Mm-hmm. And so you're going to keep the most by having a tax plan.
So important. I mean, again, so much goes into your retirement plan. These are just things that you're going to encounter in the first 5 years of retirement. You need to be ready for it. Now, you've already mentioned this case, but I'll throw it back at you. We don't want to dip into our retirement accounts early on in retirement. We need to have that emergency fund if we have something pop up. If it's the HVAC, maybe we need a new roof. There are things, maybe the transmission goes out on the car. There are so many things that can happen. The emergency fund, got to be ready for something.
Yeah, you really do. This is a big piece, and I think a lot of people are used to having an emergency fund, and so maybe this isn't a big surprise. But every now and then we do have folks that come in that don't, they've got a lot in their retirement accounts per se, but they don't have an emergency account. And that liquid cash that's not floating up and down with the market or, experiencing any volatility, that's really important. So you got to make sure you have that emergency fund because that is what's going to give you the confidence to take care of those things when they come up without being anxious like it's going to affect your overall retirement plan. So make sure you've got that emergency fund.
All right, now's the time, folks. You can really get a jump on this. If you are sitting on a portfolio, haven't started planning, or you're in the middle of something not being communicated with, want a second opinion, we have appointments. You can claim one right now. Mark, what's the best way to go about doing this?
So please pick up your phone because as Morgan just mentioned, we want to just have a conversation. If you've worked at Boeing or Weyerhaeuser, you're getting ready to retire. Maybe you've been retired just a short amount of time, or you're maybe 5 years from retirement. You can never start too early is what we would tell you. So please, I want to help you with your tax situation. I want to make sure your income is going to be guaranteed for the rest of your life and your spouse's life, right? How are you going to deal with inflation? healthcare. We've mentioned these things. All of these are we just want to have a conversation because they're problems and things that all of us have to deal with. And we want to make your retirement a success. So please pick up the phone, give us a call, because we want one of our certified financial planner team members to put together a plan specifically just for you.
All right, here's your number, 866-668-3625. That's 866-668-3625. If you've saved $250,000 or more towards your retirement, these strategies are going to work best for you. Right now is an opportunity for you to gain confidence in where you're going and how you're doing it. Make sure you have a plan. 866-668-3625. That's 866-668-3625. Another edition of Elevate Your Wealth is in the books. For Mark and Casey, I'm Morgan. We'll see you on the radio next week.
Investment advisory services offered through Foundations Investment Advisors, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. The content provided is intended for informational and educational purposes only. The views, statements, and opinions expressed herein are those of the individual speakers and not necessarily those of Foundations and its affiliates. The information contained herein does not constitute an offer to sell any securities or represent an express or implied opinion or endorsement of any specific opportunity, offering, or issuer. Any discussion of performance or returns is not indicative of future results. Each individual investor situation is different, and any ideas provided may not be appropriate for your particular circumstances. Foundations only transacts business in states where it is properly registered or excluded or exempted from registration requirements. Registration as an investment advisor is not an endorsement of the firm by securities regulators and does not mean the advisor has achieved a specific level of skill or ability. No legal or tax advice is provided. Always consult with a tax professional. All rights reserved.